was absolutely wonderful, and it was. It reminded me of my childhood when we were kids. Me and Ernie saw all, if not most, if not all, of the Friday the 13th films here. And back in those days, you know, on a Friday, Saturday night, the theater was full because there were no such thing as the internet and streaming and shit like that. There weren't a lot of options, and so in the 80s, Friday and Saturday night, this place would be packed. It's a Saturday night, and it's fucking packed again. It feels like the 80s all over again, man. And thanks to everybody who came out tonight. Okay, we met these cats before the screening began, but I'm going to reintroduce them for the folks at home, and then they're going to introduce you to everyone they brought along to play with, man. Sorry we started late. Everything here kind of starts late and then just keeps getting fucking later. So we told on the internet, we were like, we'll see you at 11. And fucking 11, they were like, what the fuck? And it's midnight and they're really mad, but it's a free show. Fuck off. Okay, kids, you can't make a movie without a producer, and let's bring up the producer, Uncle Creepy himself. Steve Barton, get up here, man. I'll bring up Damien, and you guys bring him up. And then, of course, the genius without whom we don't get to see all that fucking splatter. What an overachiever. Can't just write, can't just direct, has to do this fucking special effects as well, man. Give it up for the insanely talented Damien Leone. All right, kids, who did you bring? Introduce us to your buddies.
All right. Lauren Lavera, Sienna herself. Miss Vicky, Samantha Scafidi. Sienna's mom. Sarah Voigt. Jonathan himself, Elliot Fulham. And finally, the last guy coming up, and we're going to rotate a couple out because there's a lot of us here. But these movies do not exist without this man and his wife, Mr. Phil Falcone.
Okay, everyone have a seat. Get comfy and whatnot. Damien, take us into things. Before we watched Terrifier 2, we watched Terrifier. As a filmmaker, the first thing I was like, what the fuck? How much did that cost? What was the cost?
We went into that movie with $35,000, and at the end of the day, yeah, in post, it cost around $50,000 for part one.
So $50,000 for part one and
yeah.
shit. It makes me feel so guilty. Clerks was $27,000 for 23 more thousand. You made an actual legitimate movie. Should have fucking kept going. Now that was what, 2016?
Yeah, 15. I think we shot it. Yeah.
And what was the experience like? You'd made some flicks prior to that, correct?
I did. I considered Terrifier 1 to be my first official movie because it was the first movie I ever wrote and wanted to make in full. But before that, I had a movie, maybe some of you know, called All Hallows Eve. And that was, thank you. Because I started, many people maybe don't know this, but I started with my first official short film in like 2006. And that was the first time Art the Clown was ever introduced. So this was like a long journey. It wasn't like an overnight success with Terrifier 2. So it took a long time to get from there to here. When I made, I mean, can I take this back from like the very beginning?
Explain
like where the hell?
We want to know.
It's a little like long-winded, but so when I got out of high school, I said, you know, I have to go to film school, but I wasn't really. I took one class at the New School University in Manhattan, but I wasn't.
You went to the New School?
I took one class. It was an aesthetics of directing class. I figured, I didn't really have money to go to film school, but I told my mother, could I just like take a class, like start, see how it is?
Right.
And I went, and I wasn't really learning anything. They were showing me a lot of foreign films, like Fellini movies and things, and I was like, this isn't really why I wanted to get into movies. I love like Jaws and Taxi Driver and things like they're not really showing me. So then I went back to my mother. I said, look, instead of going to film school, would you be willing to like max out some credit cards and give me money to make my own short film that I can start putting into film festivals?
Fucking
and that
smart.
Yeah. That could kind of like be my calling card as a filmmaker, and maybe somebody will discover me and Hollywood will come knocking on my door and be willing to give me money to make a bigger movie.
How far-fetched?
Very far-fetched. So that's what wound up happening, and then it was like, all right, now this is like my time to shine. What's this movie going to be? How am I going to stand out amongst other filmmakers? So the only thing I really had in my back pocket was that I was also did my own special makeup effects.
When did that begin?
I would say, well, I've been watching horror movies legitimately since I'm 3 years old, no
Right.
joke. And
Do you remember the first one you ever watched?
the early rotation was really Jaws. My mother took me to the movies to see The Lost Boys when I was 4 years old.
Wait, you saw Lost Boys at age 4?
in the theaters at 4 years old.
I feel so fucking old.
I know.
I saw the Lost Boys in this theater.
Did you really?
Yes.
Oh, dude. Wait, do you like remember the experience? Because
Absolutely.
I legitimately remember the experience like it was yesterday, and it was like a fucking rock concert.
Yeah.
Like, one thing they did back then, like, it took a while. Like, they really built up the suspense before you saw what they looked like. That was
Yeah.
a big deal back in the day. And when they really, like, when they're in the trees and they fucking come out, like Kiefer Sutherland comes out of the shadows, like, the audience went fucking nuts when you saw. And that was, like, unprecedented. And now that's what vampires, that's, like, the staple. It's what they look like. But that was, like, unprecedented what they looked like. It became the popular look of vampires. Anyway, like, I remember that like it was yesterday, that fucking movie.
So wait, at a young age, you're drawn to horror, and it makes you want to learn how to do the effects as well.
No. So I was...
I could see it all makes sense.
Not quite like that. So I was always artistic, and I would always draw and make comic books, my own little comic books and stuff. I was always very much into playing with action figures. I always wanted to be locked in my room. I never wanted anybody to come in. I was always in my own little world playing with action figures and things like that. But so since I was so into horror movies, and I already started loving the slashers like Jason and Freddy, so when you rented Friday the 13th Part 6, on that VHS tape, there was the coming attractions to Scream Greats, which is a Fangoria hour-long produced documentary on Tom Savini, the special makeup effects artist Tom Savini. Yeah. And that was the first time I ever saw what a makeup artist did, and I saw this guy being responsible for the dummy Jason puppet in Friday the 13th Part 4, and he had his hand up like the fucking fluffy puppet from Creepshow. All these movies and monsters that I already loved, and I said, oh my God, this is like three-dimensional artwork. This is the guy that creates the monsters. And that was like a big light bulb moment. I said, like, this is amazing. But I was still very young. I was like 7 years old, but I knew I was like obsessed with that. But when I was 12, my mother actually took me to the Chiller Theater Horror Convention in Jersey.
Nice.
So this is like 93, 94, to actually meet Tom Savini, because he was my idol for years. And so I got to meet him. I was super nervous, and he was really cool, and we talked for a little bit. But coincidentally, a vendor there was selling these starter makeup kits, these Ben Nye makeup kits, and these real machetes that were dulled, and they had the fucking Tom Savini semicircle cut out, which is a classic Tom Savini gag.
Put it right in the neck or in the head.
Yeah, and a bottle, I'll never forget, a bottle of mint-flavored blood. And my mother bought all that shit for me, and I got home, and I dove into that makeup kit. And the first thing I learned how to do was make this very realistic cut on my friends' faces with liquid latex. I would just put a very thin layer and fold the skin onto itself, and it created this amazing gash. And I would send them home to their parents, and we would lie and say that we were playing football, and they hit their head in like the car and the license plate and cut their head. And one of my friend's fathers had just gotten home from work, and we did this to him, and he was like, "You motherfucker!" He's like, "I just got home. Now I got to take you to the goddamn emergency room." And he got so mad at his son, and we totally duped him into believing that. And I got such a rush from that I fooled an adult. And I said, you know, like, this is for me. Like, I'm obsessed with makeup effects from this day forward. And I never stopped. And eventually, I just
Hold
started.
on. Let's unpack the poor abused kid who fucking, whose dad was like, your fucking injury is ruining my evening.
Yeah.
What I find incredibly charming and same, you know, we're, as artists are always looking for similarities in each other and shit, like dogs sniff each other's asses and stuff. You want to know how similar you are. This is how similar we were. I loved Tom Savini. If I had found his book, Grand Illusions, which he had written years ago on the art of prosthetic makeup, that was the direction I was going to go. Long before I wanted to be a filmmaker and shit, all I wanted to do was special effects makeup. I, too, had a little makeup kit, but I wasn't good enough to make gashes and shit. All I had was a folded knife and fucking nose putty. I would stick it in necks and shit, leave the folded knife, and then pour fucking Caro syrup blood all over the place. Problem is, when you pour it on wood floors, that shit don't come up. And we would do it at people's house, like Debbie LePay's house and shit. And her mom came home, and we were pretending to be dead in the hallway. And she was not fucking impressed at all, because all she saw was the fucking red dye on the wood, and that never went away. 10 years, it fucking stained and shit. That was my dream, was to do special effects, and then I failed at life. So your story is the opposite. You fucking saw it, went for it, and figured out how to do it. What was the first major effect that you did where you were like, fuck, I'm in Savini country?
Well, like I said, it was that, honestly, that little gash that really got big reactions.
That's not Savini
from
country.
People. That's not Savini country.
It's a gash.
There were a couple of things. There was a couple of, like, moments where I found this pair of, like, Groucho Marx sunglasses with that squirted water that was just, like, in one of my cabinets. And the first time I ever took that apart and put I put that tubing into a soap dispenser pump and put that behind a knife and sprayed, you know, cut my neck and sprayed blood out of that. I was like, oh my God, that was like another light bulb moment. Like, that's a Tom Savini classic gag, you know? But I think it was like probably the first time I created a prosthetic that I could put on somebody that was like,
Now explain for the uninitiated what a prosthetic is.
Sure, like anything in Walking Dead, or where you see just like the zombies, or I mean, it's like you take a mold of somebody's face and then you sculpt in clay what you want them to look like, whether it's a zombie or a vampire. Then you take a mold on top of that, fill it with either foam latex or gelatin. You get a piece and you can glue it onto their face. So that was a big moment. And when I was learning that, it was way before YouTube or anything like that. So I had to like find this 3-series VHS tape that taught me how to do it, you know, step by step. So that was interesting. But yeah, it was just always about makeup effects. And going back to the first short film with Art the Clown. So then it was like, all right, I'm gonna create a short film that's packed out with demons and creatures and things like that. And there was always, you know, when you're an aspiring filmmaker at a young age, you know, horror writer, director, all you do all day long is just think of these creepy scenarios, you know, just weird circumstances, things you could put characters into. And I was inspired by this Twilight Zone episode, the original Twilight Zone. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. There's this episode called Mirror Image where this woman is all alone in a bus depot in the middle of the night, and just this weird shit keeps happening to her. Like, she'll look at her luggage one moment, the next moment she'll look away and her luggage is in a different spot. And then she'll go up to the guy at the ticket booth and she'll say, you know, what time is the bus arriving? And he'd say, you know, lady, the bus is coming, you know, in 10 minutes. It's the same time I told you it was coming, you know, 5 minutes ago. Stop asking me. And she's like, I've never asked you this before. And it turns out that her doppelganger is in that depot with her and keeps fucking with her and making her like go insane. And it's very creepy, and I just love that atmosphere. And I said, I want to recreate something where a woman is in that similar situation where she's confined in this setting and some evil force is just fucking with her. So I said, I'll do something where this woman's alone on a bus in the middle of the night, just, you know, going somewhere, and at a stop, a clown gets on all of a sudden. It won't be a doppelganger, it'll be a clown. And he gets on, sits across from her, and just starts staring at her, and it's just very uncomfortable. And then he goes into his bag, and he's honking a horn at her. And it's not immediately threatening, but it's getting more and more intense until eventually he's trying to stick a needle into her. It's just one of many weird, creepy ideas I had. And I said, that would be a good way to kick off this short film. And then it became, well, what is this clown? What does he look like? And at the time, Tim Curry's Pennywise was and still is arguably the king of all killer clowns, and he was the archetypal, yeah, for sure. Like the archetypal killer clown. And I said, if I'm going to take a shot at the killer clown, he can't be anything like Tim Curry's Pennywise, because that would just be totally disrespectful, and I need to do something different. So I went in the complete opposite direction, and I didn't make him colorful. I didn't make him, he didn't have hair. He didn't have the bulbous red nose. He didn't speak. So I have a lot to thank Tim Curry's Pennywise for visually what Art the Clown looks like. And visually, Art the Clown, that's what a lot of people, it's the first time they discover the character. I've heard so many times when it was on Netflix for the first time and nobody knew what Terrifier was. I hear the story all the time that they were just scrolling through the horror section and then they'd see Art the Clown's face and they'd say, I don't know what this movie is, but I need to check that out. I need to know what's going on with that character. So yeah, that's pretty much how it started, but it's been a long journey. It was like 2 short films and they were put into an anthology, and then this guy, it was the only one to come through because for a long time I just wanted to make Terrifier the short film. I wanted to put Art the Clown into his own feature. Nobody wanted to give me money. Nobody believed in killer clowns. This was before Stephen King, the sequel to It came out, and I remember the producer of All Hallows Eve, I tried pitching this to him. I said, All Hallows Eve has a little bit of success. Could we make a standalone Art the Clown movie? And he's like, no. He's like, I spoke to some people and clowns cannot sell a movie. He's like, that's what.
Fuck it. It's just such one of those theories.
Yeah.
People are like, clowns don't work, move on.
Yep.
And you're like, but clowns have work. Not anymore. I'm the arbiter of fucking clowns.
Yep. That's it. Clowns can't sell a movie. And I was like, all right, I'm on my own. And I tried to do an Indiegogo, and then I was just going through my emails, people I had, emails and shit. And I stumbled upon your email because we worked together on a film. And he saw that I was trying to do this Indiegogo campaign. He said, what are you trying to do here? What's going on? It's like, I'm trying to raise like $30,000 to make this killer clown movie. And he was like, I'll give you the money tomorrow. He's like, I just want to be able to work with you because I know you do special effects and I'm interested in special effects. I want to just like be by your side while you're doing this, and I think it would be fun. And literally the next day he gave me the money, which like hardly ever happens. I mean, he just really stepped up to the plate and gave me the money.
Yeah, what's your name? And can we hang out? Like, what was that all about? Is it really, were you just interested in the special effects process? Into the mic.
Mike, does that work? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. I'm not used to this. I had just done a film, and he had worked on it with me. I was always into film, but I wanted to have a family, and I knew my talents weren't there to be a film star. I wanted to be an actor. With a face like this, I'm better for radio. So I wanted to make a movie. When I retired from my real job, I decided I was going to make a movie. And I met him.
I love that. That is fucking tremendous.
It's
a late in life. Like a lot of artists burgeon in youth, right? Because youth fucking rules, and youth is like, oh, fucking, it'll never end. It'll always work. Youth is capricious as fuck. When we get aged and fucking we know how the world works, less people tend to reach toward art. But that is the time to do it, man. Like, play when you're older. You play when you're a kid, and then they force you to grow up and enter the real world and stuff. But those of us that do this kind of nonsense for a living figure out that, like, oh shit, if I get this right, I can play right to the fucking grave. And again, it happens early in youth for a lot of people. To be finishing up one life and not wrapping it up, but instead being like, you know what, now it's time to do the thing I always fucking dreamed about. That's fucking the noble work. You're breathing rarefied air. Give it up for him.
Thank you. Well, I got to give props to my wife.
All right.
Because you
Smart,
have to have
wise
a
man. Fucking A.
You have to have a strong woman behind you. She's very strong, and she backs me on everything. I mean, Damien burnt down our house. We have more body parts in my basement right now than can be imagined. And all she does is go, "Are you kidding me?" And that's the end of it. I mean, and then 5 minutes later she'll go, "Do you need help?" So, she's cool. Like, I needed body parts. Took her, took my daughters. It was always. But I wanted to learn special effects. I was always creative, too. When I was younger, I used to draw. I used to make comic books and everything. But I saw in Damien something that I don't see often in people. I've had a lot of partners in my life that I worked with, and I only had one that I ever felt that I could trust, and he'd have my back and I'd have his always. And I'm like that, I could shake your hand and I'm your buddy for life. If you fuck me, got a problem.
Right.
Damien, I saw
What if
right
he fuck
away.
you and you're really good at it, though?
Well, then we can talk even more.
Fair enough. I just want to know if there were levels.
Yeah. Yeah. But Damien is the real deal. I saw that very early on. You know, definitely a dynamite guy. I wish I had known how good he was with special effects when I did Joe's War. I thought he was just going to squirt blood out, and I was like, all right, just make blood come out of here and blood come out of here. When I worked with him on Terrifier, and we were doing things, and I was like, you know, he was more conscious of the money than I was at that time, and he was like, you know, we're going to do this. And I was going, well, why don't we just freaking mold the whole body? And wouldn't it be easy? And he goes, that's a lot of money. I said, fuck it, let's do it. You know? Let's do it. It's going to look better. Let's fucking do it. And now on Terrifier 2, every time he said, well, we're going to reshoot, I was going like, fuck no. We got to stop this shit. But then he'd go, come on, it's going to look so much better. Fuck it. All right, let's do it. But I learned a lot. And he's a good teacher, and he's a good friend.
Love you, buddy. Thank you.
Same here.
So you get it all done for 50? That was the idea?
Yeah, about
Then
50
what'd you
grand.
do with it? This is the most important part for those out there. A lot of people dream of making flicks. Nobody knows where to begin, but nobody knows where to begin once the fucking most momentous step is taken. You can make a fucking thing, and you're breathing rarefied air, and you're one of, like, you know, 1% of the world that'll ever create a piece of art and shit. Try selling it. That's the next fucking hill. Just when you're done, it's like, okay, now what the fuck do we do with it? What the fuck did you do with it?
Yeah, I believe, if I remember correctly, we got a sales agent, and he started shopping it around to distributors, and distributors would either come back saying they're not interested, or they want to take it, but they don't want to give us an MG, which is a minimum guarantee, which is money up front. And then there were other people who wanted it, but they wanted to cut some of the violence out and things, which I was not willing to
Is
compromise.
that right? There were people that were like, too much splatter.
Yeah, too much
They
splatter.
didn't understand that was like part of the fucking charm.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Yeah. And then we got to the point where we were like, all right, we're just gonna fucking self-distribute this because, you know, we don't want to compromise the vision. We knew that the gore was gonna be one of the most important aspects of the movie. And then I remember I had the DVD of Rob Zombie's 31, because I'm a huge Rob Zombie fan. Yeah. And on the DVD, there's a quote from Steve Barton saying something positive about the film, and I knew that his name sounded familiar, and I knew that he had known the producer of All Hallows Eve somehow. I wound up getting his email address, and I sent him an email saying, hey, Steve, would you mind checking out this movie that I just made? And all I wanted him to do was take a look at it, and if he liked it, give us a quote to say, like, all right, maybe build some hype, say this movie's cool, it's worth checking out. And so literally, he's like, yeah, I'll check it out. And like the next day, he emails me back. He calls me, and he's like, dude, what's going on with this movie? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, nothing. I'm like, we're trying to sell it. He's like, don't do anything with this fucking movie. He's like, hold it. He's like, this is what everybody in the slasher genre is like waiting for. This is like Art the Clown is the next fucking big thing, I'm telling you. He's like, it's real. Yeah, man, it's a true story. Yeah. Yeah, he said, I just got hooked up with this company. They're distributing films. He's like, I'm going to convince them that they need to pick this up no matter what. And that's what happened. They wound up giving us an MG that we were happy with, and they put it out, and they wound up getting it on Netflix, which just brought it to another tier, and that's what really got it popular.
When did you guys hit profitability? When were you paid back to the place where you're like, fucking hey, that worked out?
On the MG.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's breathing rare air, kids. Generally nowadays, your MG, if you get one, if you're lucky enough to get one, most people are just like, oh, we'll put it up and whatever we make, we'll split with you or something. If you're lucky to get an MG, you don't get an MG that covers your entire fucking budget. That just doesn't happen anymore. But I believe that probably had a lot to do with how low the budget was.
Correct.
So by the time we get to the Netflix moment, that's got to be just gravy, because at that point, never mind sales, that's introducing you to the masses in a way that, like, you know, when I was a kid, we didn't have that sort of fucking thing. Like, horror now used to be you could fill a movie theater. Now you could go directly into their homes and stuff. What was it like? What was the Netflixization of Terrifier like for you?
we would start seeing celebrities posting it on their Instagram. They were filming it. They were talking about it. And we started seeing a lot of people popping up with tattoos. Dude, I see this fucking tattoo right there. That is incredible. Amazing. Yeah, things like that. It was just, it just became so much more popular because so many eyes were on it now. And like I said, that was the story that I just kept hearing because David Howard Thornton plays Art the Clown. We do a lot of horror conventions, and when people come up to us, they're, yeah, he's over there.
Oh, shit! Woo! Who's up there?
Yeah, that's David Howard Thornton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catherine Corcoran, who plays Dawn in Part 1, and Jenna Cannell, who plays Tara in Terrifier 1. Woo.
The giant floating head of Oz.
Yeah.
We're up here. We win here.
So yeah, it really brought
I think
it to
we're delayed.
it really brought it to another level, and so many people had eyes on it, and we were just hearing from everybody that we had, and then we're like making lists of like top horror movies and things like that just because of how popular Netflix is, and it's so accessible.
So at that point, did you know when you were doing Terrifier that you would want to do a Terrifier 2, or is it based on
No.
the reaction?
No, always, because actually at the beginning of Terrifier 1, originally at the end I did not...
Stop calling it Terrifier
sorry,
1.
yeah.
That really irritates me. You didn't call it that the first time. Don't retcon that shit. Terrifier.
That's it. So at the end of Terrifier, originally that scene with him resurrecting in the morgue was not there. So it just ended with him blowing his brains out, and then it goes to the reveal that Victoria is the woman from the beginning.
Awesome.
So when I was cutting it...
That, by the way, was a nice piece of writing.
Oh, thank you.
As I was sitting in the back, I was like, oh, right on. We're back where we started.
There you go.
How horrible.
But then I said, like, I know that I'm not done with this character, and I want to bring him back, and I don't want the audience wondering, is he coming back? Is this it? So I was like, we have to have a scene where the audience knows he's coming back, and as cliched as it is, I said we have to have him pop up in the morgue, sort of, Friday 13 Part 4 style, and then we'll set it up. But they're gonna know he's supernatural, and there's a lot more going on with this character. So we did go and reshoot that scene because I knew I wanted to make another one.
It's weird. As I was watching the flick, that seemed not a part of it, where it was just like, wait, we just went supernatural?
Yeah.
I thought it was more Halloween-y. My take on the flick was the first one was very Halloween-ish, and then the second one was very Nightmare on Elm Street-ish.
Very much.
Was that
Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors was like the
It was
tone
very much a
of-
Dream Warriors fucking vibe to it. And then fucking, for some reason, seeing Chris Jericho in it really brought that home for me. Okay, so at that point, you add a scene, and is that before the movie comes? That the movie hits Netflix and all that
Yes.
stuff?
Yeah.
So by then, you're like, oh, I know I'm going to do this again. How many years between the first and the second?
2016, the first one came out, and then I think October of 2018, we started shooting Part 2.
Oh, fucking nice. So that was like right on top of it. So you were shooting, were you done right before the pandemic? Oh, you before,
No,
way
the
before.
pandemic hit in the middle of shooting Terrifier 2.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you think you caused it?
Wouldn't be surprised.
Tell them what it's like to make a movie during the pandemic.
Honestly, for us, it was a huge benefit.
Tell me why.
Yeah, because, all right, so when I wrote the script, it was super ambitious. It was so much bigger than Part 1, and the effects were just like gargantuan. So I told Phil, I said, dude, we're not going to be able to do this ourselves. We're going to have to hire another team to come in and shoot like 40% of the effects. I mean, tackle 40% of the effects. So he's like, all right, yeah.
Why? Just by sheer, but you like, I can't do it all by myself
it's too
anymore.
much.
It's
yeah,
too much.
and I like literally do it all. So like I have to put Art's prosthetic on.
Holy shit.
It's true. A lot of it.
Is that
But
right?
like
So you,
I do.
you
I
had
put
hands
Art's
on
prosthetic.
everything.
Get
You
another
did Art's
door
makeup as
opening.
well?
Yeah, like I'm like the first person on set. I put Art's prosthetic on. I literally like do the effects on set. So I'm like pumping the blood. I'm like, like I have help. Like we had to have help come in, but like I do almost everything.
So most directors like get there, and have one job to think about. You get there and do a whole job
Yeah.
before you start the job you're there for.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, that's ambitious.
So we hired this company, and we were just going back and forth about the budget and how much we could pay them. And they were like, at first it seemed like they were on board, and we actually started buying all these materials and shipping it to them. And then like a month went by, and they were like, we can't come to an agreement because we need a lot more money. So we were just like screwed. So now we were like so much closer to shooting, and now we didn't have this team willing to help us out.
Had they given you an estimate?
Did they? I don't remember. Do you remember?
They actually agreed to a price.
Did they?
so.
And then
They
came back and was like, it
agreed
was
to a
none of-
price, and they actually started. And then they said, no, we need this, we need that, and we said, you know what, that ain't gonna work. We already made an agreement, you know, you already made, and he said, well, we can't do that. And we said, all right, then forget it.
No.
And then
At that point, are you like, I'm back to doing everything myself?
Back to everything. So I said to Phil, I said, well, what are we doing? He said, listen, we can't keep postponing. This movie will never get made. Let's just jump in and we'll figure it out as we go. So all that meant was we would have to just like shoot up until a point when we didn't have anything ready to go, and we'd have to break for like 2 weeks, and then Phil and I would just go in his basement and build all the special effects for 2 weeks, and then bring the movie back on. And we just
Now, for those that don't know how movies work and stuff, once you start, you go until you're done because every day costs money. And if you stop, starting again costs more money because you have to ramp the engine back up again and stuff. So that's why once a movie begins, traditionally they'll shoot 30 days, 2 months, whatever the fuck it is. A Marvel movie, they shoot 9 years and stuff. But you start and then you go until you're done, particularly in the world of low-budget film. So for you guys to go and then stop and then go build a bunch of shit and then start again prolongs the process. Did it raise the budget or did it ameliorate the budget for you guys by breaking like that?
Had to raise it a little bit. No?
it cost us a couple of dollars here and there, and one of the things he would say, like, well, we're gonna, we can't move back, we can't do this, we can't do that, and then I'd go, all right, we'll move some money from here, we'll put it over there, we'll worry about this later, let's get this done.
Filmmaking is a criminal enterprise, kids.
Yeah.
It's all about hiding money.
But one of the things that we did that worked out was we shot a lot up in my place, upstate New York, and we built the sets ourselves. So saved a lot of money there.
Right.
Saved a lot of time too, because like, you know, you grab a couple of people, you go, you know, as long as you don't let Jason Levy measure anything, you're okay. And you build whatever you can, and you have people like Olga Turka that comes in and designs the shit out of it with her counterpart Jackie Hughes. So they make even the worst set you could build look amazing. And so we saved a lot of money there, but it was time consuming. But what we would do is we would, any downtime we had where we had the actors and actresses maybe sleeping, we were doing something else, and then I'd sleep when they're acting. So it worked for me.
High compliment to every actor. I slept through your performance.
But where it really helped us was we knew going into part 2 that we had to create a scene, a kill scene that at least rivaled the hacksaw scene, because everybody wants to know how are you going to top the hacksaw scene from Terrifier 1.
When you said the hacksaw scene, you mean cutting a woman in half?
We cut
That was so
dear
fucked
Catherine
up, man.
Corcoran in half. Yes.
It was unbelievable. I was sitting in the back going like, no, clearly, oh my God, he did.
We show it all. We
Really,
do
it was
Yeah.
uncanny. So at that point, you're like, I have to do something bigger than that.
Bigger, yeah. And I, where do you go from there? And I remember I was in Barnes and Noble one day. I was flipping through a book about Jack the Ripper, and it was a book, claiming that he could have been a woman, I believe. And I was just very curious, and I was flipping through, and there happened to be an actual photograph of one of his victims in it, and it was so disturbing. And it was just this poor mutilated woman on a bed. You couldn't even tell it was a human being anymore. But being me, I was like, all right, that's a perfect, kill scene for Art the Clown. I was like,
I felt so bad for her. I exploited her.
I said, I'm going to take that image and, let's reverse engineer it. And if Art the Clown was responsible, how did that poor victim end up in that state? So I said, that's a good way to start. But when this whole thing happened with the other special effects team, we didn't have the effects ready, and we had to jump in and start shooting that scene. I remember being on set with the effects we had prepped, and I was like, this is going to be nowhere near the hacksaw scene. Like, no one's going to be happy with this. I said, we're going to have to go back and reshoot this eventually. And then we got hit with the pandemic and the lockdown. I said, this is a perfect opportunity to reconfigure this entire scene. I could start from scratch, you know, go to the drawing board. And then I called Phil and I called David and I said, listen, we're going to do this whole thing over again. I have all this time, so I'm going to build all these really crazy special effects sequences that we can put into this whole kill scene. And they were like, all right, yeah, let's do it. And I took all the time to build all those special effects now to, you know, as best as we could. And then we took a whole week to shoot that one scene. And it really, I mean, that's the scene I'm gonna imagine is the one that had people like freaking out and puking in the theater and having panic attacks, and so it
Was
helped
that
us.
legit?
Yeah.
We saw that on the internet. There were people puking and stuff.
That was legit. I could swear to you that we had nothing to do with that. It wasn't a marketing ploy or publicity stunt. Yeah, exactly. I wish we were smart enough to do it. Yeah.
It's funny. You're like, we didn't do that. Yes, you did.
We did it. Geniuses. No, I remember I saw a screening with George Stuber, my DP. We were in the city, and when we were coming home from that screening, we were in the lift, and I'm just like scrolling through like Instagram or whatever, and I see someone saying, my friend or someone behind me in the screening of Terrifier 2 literally passed out in my theater and like cracked their head on the back of my chair. I'm like, what? And then I saw someone else saying, this just happened in Terrifier 2, and it's like a picture of puke like in the, you know, in the theater. And I'm like, is this really happening? And then sure enough, it just spread.
It's like your Oscars, man.
Yeah,
like
100%.
fucking.
My badge of honor,
Yes.
like, you know? Yeah. So, listen, whether they're real or not, I assure you that we did not do it. That's all I could say. But
How long was the shoot on Terrifier then with the start, stop? Terrifier 2.
yeah, almost 3 years from start to finish.
To make 2.
Yeah.
Now, again, for conventional wisdom would dictate like, oh my God, if you knew that going in, most people wouldn't start. But that's how the movie got made. Like that, there was no alternative.
There's no other way.
Would you advocate? Well, I guess you have to advocate. It's like any way the movie gets made, shy of killing somebody is a good fucking thing. So it don't matter if like most of the time it's supposed to take this amount of time. If it takes a protracted period of time, that's okay. There are no fucking rules whatsoever. How do you keep continuity across 3 fucking years? Continuity is like everything looks like it's been shot in the same period of time. So 3 years, like a lot could fucking happen. Like if we were to make a movie with me over the course of 3 years, I would look so fucking different right now from when we started the movie. So how did you guys manage that over a couple of years?
A miracle. The movie gods just like, you know, smiling upon us. Like, I don't even know. I can't even tell you. The only thing that really kind of stands out is you might actually be able to see Elliot Fulham kind of grow over the course of the movie.
I was like, what a special effect!
Yeah, there's nothing we could do about that.
It wasn't prosthetics. That was just boyhood.
Oh my, yeah. Oh, and he was in his prime of his voice cracking throughout that entire movie. I had to do some magic, some editing, some sound design magic to tweak his voice and cut out all those cracks and everything.
Speaking of editing, who's your editor? Who cut?
Me.
Did you as well?
Yeah.
Fucking Jesus Christ! When do you sleep?
Yeah.
I was very impressed with the editing. As an editor
Oh,
myself,
thank you,
I was like,
man.
ooh, I fucking like that. I liked it, like right in the way in the beginning of Terrifier, just how quickly you brought us into the story of cuts, and it's something you continued on in 2 as well. You got a style.
Oh, thank you.
And you could see it, man. I dug it. I was vibing on it. As an editor, I was like, ooh, I like that. It also allows for shit like, there's no such thing as a bad special effect when you cut that quick, it felt like.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
there are moments where you have 2-3 seconds of something, and then you never use another piece of it. And as the editor, I was sitting in the back going like, that could have went way wrong, and it wouldn't have mattered. He got what he needed out of it.
Oh, dude, I heard you talk about seeing, which is amazing. You saw Friday the 13th Part 4 in this.
Yeah,
theater,
yeah. Do you
which
want
is-
to hear a sad story
Please,
about it?
yes.
So Friday the 13th 4, is that the one with the kid in it who eats
Corey
chocolate,
Feldman,
the heavy kid?
No, that's Part 5.
5.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I saw 4 and I saw 5 in the theater. This is a sad story about 5. We're in this fucking theater right here, man. And I'm sitting like fucking about 8 rows up. And it's me, I was with Ernie, we were with our friend Danny Hapstack, and he had a brother named Eddie Hapstack who was a few years older. And so that kid, who's a heavyset kid, and he's eating chocolate, and he's kind of a little bit slow, the characters presented as slow. He's on screen in a full fucking close-up with chocolate over his mouth and shit like that. And in the dead silence of the theater, Ed Hapstack, full house, like this, on a fucking Friday night, Ed Hapstack goes, "It's fucking Kev Smith." And And it was like, it's not like I am now where people are like, Kev Smith, he made Clerks. But I was a kid. There was only about 10 people who knew, but they were laughing. And I was like, oh, fuck. I said, I'll never live this down until one day I grow up and buy the fucking theater. And then I'll burn it down with everyone in there. But anyway, yes, 4 was the one that did it for you. That was
Yeah, so that was the one that Tom Savini did the special effects on part 1.
Mm-hmm.
He did all the effects on part 1. Part 4, he did it with a couple of other makeup artists. But the way the effects are shot in that one, they're edited really fast, but they're really graphic. And I always loved that style.
Right.
So I tried to capture that, just like a lot of subliminal kind of like really grotesque shots, but don't linger on them too long. I mean, I linger on some things a lot.
yeah. I saw that fucking hacksaw scene.
Yeah, but they could be longer. You could linger longer.
That's true.
It is possible, but
Not much longer,
yeah.
but yes, you could, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so when do you, since you're doing a piecemeal over the course of a few years, did you have a budget on Terrifier 2, or it was just like it costs what it costs?
We had a budget that we didn't follow very well.
What was the original budget?
We always went in thinking we were going to do it.
Like it's gonna be similar to part 1.
Yeah, it was going to. Well, truthfully, when he hates when I say it, but I'm not a horror fan. So
What the fuck? It's like Finding Santa's not real.
oh shit! So when I went to a con with them in Arizona the first time I went, and it was right as it went on Netflix.
Right before
Right
Netflix.
before Netflix. And one of the things I was telling him was we need to build our fan base, and you'll see. I said, we're going to get screwed on Terrifier 1, which you hate to hear. So we're going to get screwed on Terrifier. I said, but we need to build a fan base. And if we build a fan base, we'll make our money on 2. So when I went to Arizona, and I'm looking around, and people were coming up to us, and I'm like, how the fuck do they even know who we are? Not that they knew who I was invisible then too. But they were coming over to Damien and Dave, and I was like, shit, what the fuck is going on here? How do these people notice? So I'm looking and I go, Damien, how long is Freddy Krueger out? And he's telling me, and I'm asking him about all these people, and I said, fuck, we got to go bigger. I said, we got to go bigger. So I had told him, I said, we got to do at least 150,000. And that was our original budget. And then when we started looking at the script that he wrote, I said, oh, shit. That ain't going to happen. And we built from there, and
Well, then we did the Indiegogo
we
campaign.
did the Indiegogo.
Because, yeah.
And how did that go? How successful was that?
Incredible. Because
You'd already built a name and a franchise by this point.
yeah,
So
we knew
people
we
were
had. We
excited.
definitely knew we had a fan base, but we didn't know how big it was. And there was the Clown Cafe scene that you see now in Terrifier 2. I just knew that was such a big scene, and we were going to kill so many people. It was going to be a big set, and I just knew with our budget, there's no way we can do this. So I said, let's reach out to the fans and see if we could raise some more money to incorporate this scene. So we set the goal for $50,000, and then within like 12 hours, it went to like $250,000. And that was a huge eye-opening moment. I was like, oh my God. I was like, all right, maybe we have something a lot bigger than we thought we had. Yeah, thank you guys, seriously.
So at that point, does that become the budget, or that's
It did.
in addition? So
And
budget
it-
was 250.
Yeah, and that enabled us to pretty much create everything that I wrote in the script, all 2 hours and 18 minutes that you see now. We filmed everything.
That
We
was
filmed
the
everything.
ballsiest aspect of
I
it.
know.
It was like, oh, we're gonna go long as fuck. Like
Yeah.
most horror movies tend to be as short as fuck, like
Very
90 minutes, sometimes under. This was just like, no, you're gonna watch this. I have thoughts, and you're gonna see them all. Okay, so the budget winds up being 250. Nobody in this room is a stranger to these facts, but for those who might be tuning in at home going like, what the fuck? Where are you guys right now in terms of box office?
Ooh, with us in Canada, like 11.8 million.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Put it together, man. Holy shit.
Yeah. And then with streaming, with 3 weeks of streaming, we're over 2 mil.
Streaming, $2 million
Extra.
worth of streaming
Extra.
and
So
shit.
like $14 million.
Yeah.
Oh my God. For a $250,000 budget.
Yeah.
Who came calling first? Jason Blum? Anybody? Like fucking, if I read
Oh,
that,
yeah.
I'm hiring the fuck out of you for like 96 things. Who's come calling since the success of Terrifier?
Dude, it's been interesting, man. Like my whole life has been fucking turned around right now. Like
Is that right?
Yeah, man. I got to meet with I did a Zoom meeting with Sam Raimi, his company, Ghost House Pictures. Which is, dude, like, Evil Dead 2, since I'm fucking 4 years old, has been one of my favorite movies of all time. I've been watching it since I'm 4 years old, and to see that guy, to talk to that guy, I had to stop the Zoom. I was like, dude, I need to just fanboy out and tell you how much you mean to me. And he was
he
so
wearing
nice.
a suit? Was he wearing a suit?
He wasn't wearing a suit. No.
He doesn't respect you yet.
Yeah, no, not yet.
On set, he always wears a suit. He like comes to
I know,
to direct in
his
a fucking
Hitchcock
suit.
thing, right? He wears the suit all the time.
He says buddy. Like, does he still say buddy a lot? He's like, hey, buddy.
Yeah, hey,
I love Terrifier, buddy. You know who he is? Did you ever see Hudsucker Proxy?
Yes.
He's that guy who's like, oh, buddy. That's literally who the Coen brothers based it on, is fucking
That's
Sam
amazing,
Raimi,
yeah.
So wait, what did you guys talk about?
So I have another treatment, another horror story that's not Terrifier related that his company is interested in putting into development.
Fucking
Yeah,
A.
which is
All right,
pretty
who
cool.
else did you hear from?
I spoke to A24. I spoke to New Line Cinema. Like, a lot of people have been reaching out.
And where were these?
Just interested
Where
in-
were these fuckers before?
Yeah, exactly. Now
Everyone
they're
comes
calling.
calling when you know how to do it. Now wait, we skipped a big important step. Who put it out the second time? Who distributed the second time? First time. it
Oh,
was
yeah,
you
yeah,
guys.
yeah. A company called Cinedyme, and they're in conjunction with Bloody Disgusting. So,
Fucking A, the
and
website.
dude, like, they got behind it. They believed in it, everything about it. They didn't care about the violence. They didn't care about how long it was, which is very unprecedented. And to just like put that movie into mainstream theaters, not being rated and being that long, is ridiculous. And you're talking about a sequel to an obscure slasher film. And they were like, look, man, we're going to like put all our eggs in your basket and just like hope for it. And they were hoping that if it did well, because they were trying to get their streaming platform, Screambox, up and running as well. And they, they really were hoping that Terrifier 2 would be a good push for it if it was successful. And it worked out for them. It really did. I mean, they took a gamble and it paid off. So I'm really happy about that. But they were awesome. They were just so fucking supportive. It was
Fucking
great.
A, man.
Yeah.
Now take me into the cast here, which sounds way dirtier than I meant it. How do you arrive at your cast? We'll start right here. Tell me.
All right. So. Yes, and then
Oh shit, that's right. Maybe we should start with
Terrifier
Art.
1. How about we start with David Howard
That's what I'm
Thornton, who
saying,
plays
yes.
Art the Clown.
Hey.
I don't know if they can hear you. I think you're delayed.
Can they hear me?
Yes,
We can hear you.
Okay.
We're good.
Hi.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is actually an interesting story. They're not all interesting. but
That's Art the Clown?
That's Art the Clown.
I know, it's such a disappointment.
It's not a disappointment, like you're cute.
Oh, thank you.
The other
I'm
guy
sorry
was
you had to
horrifying.
my ass.
It's amazing.
So how does he wind up as Art?
So he was not originally Art the Clown. I told you I made 2 short films before All Hallows Eve. Those short films were put into All Hallows Eve. So that was my buddy, Mike Gianelli. So when I was getting into makeup effects and he was just my friend, and I'd say like, dude, I need to, test this bullet hit on you, or I have to put this prosthetic on you. And then it was like, dude, I'm making my first official short film. I have this clown character. I know you don't act, but all you gotta do is sit there and smile and honk a horn and do all this kind of shit. I'm like, I already have your face mold. You can do this. Trust me. He's
I'll
like,
tell you, I sat in the back, I was like, this shit's awfully silent, Bob.
Yeah.
I called my lawyer, he said I couldn't do shit.
Oh.
I wasn't a Clerks fan or anything like that. Yeah. But so then it's just like he thought he was going to be in this one short film, and then it kept going and going, and before you know it, I'm like, all right, dude, we're going to make Terrifier the movie now, and I need you for months. And he's just like, dude, I'm not an actor. I can't go through all this makeup. It's a lot. And he was like getting heavier, and I wanted him to go on a diet and lose weight because I wanted.
You Hollywood piece of shit.
I wanted.
Fucking size this motherfucker. You're what's wrong with this business, Damien.
Fair point. But listen, I always imagined Art the Clown to be skinnier. I thought skinnier and would be a lot creepier. And I just said, dude, you got to get back to looking like the way you looked in Ninth Circle. Long story short, he didn't want to do it. So now I said, fuck. Everything that worked about Ninth Circle was Art the Clown. Like everybody, whatever I did, they just loved that character. For all the other faults, they loved Art. Now I got to start from scratch. So we held this audition in the city, in Manhattan, just an open call to have people come in to play this silent mime killer clown. I think it was obviously a killer clown in the sides. And then Dave walks in, And he's like, well, hey, what do I do? He's like, I didn't have any sides. And I'm like, don't worry, you don't need sides. I'm like, you're the silent killer clown, and why don't you just act like you're killing somebody, decapitating them, but you're doing it very gleefully. You're having a very good time doing this. And he goes, oh, all right. And then he just like flips this switch and goes into this amazing performance where he's cutting off this guy's head and ripping it off. And then he tastes the blood and he's like, not satisfied with it. And then he goes and takes a salt shaker and he pours it onto the blood and tastes it again. He's like, that's great. And then he skips out of the room like the fucking Grinch. And the whole time it's just me and Phil in the room, and I'm like nudging him and we're laughing, and I'm like, wow, this is good. This is good. And he looked like I wanted him to look. He was tall and thin, and he had this big smile, this big grin when he walked in. I said physically he would look amazing in that makeup. And I was just like, I hope he just doesn't blow it with the audition. And he killed it with the audition. And then I was like, all right, man, we'll be in touch. And he was like the sixth person to come into the room. And then he left, and I looked at Phil, and I go, well, what else are we really looking for? I'm like, this guy's perfect. He looks perfect. That was fantastic. That's more than I even thought we were going to need. I said, let's have this guy come back. Let's throw the prosthetic on him, and let's film it and see how that works. And that was it. I like shut down the auditions there. He was the sixth person to come in for Art the Clown. I just knew that was the guy.
David, had you done anything prior to that?
Not film-wise. I was a stage actor. I had just finished up my 5th national tour of How the Grinch Stole Christmas the musical. So it was quite a leap going from family-friendly musical theater to full-on NC-17 horror. So that was a fun jump.
Do me a favor, man. Can you give us a taste of your audition that got you the fucking job?
Oh my God. I know it's online, but it's like I just coming in just.
Cinema history is made.
Dude, that was it to a T. That was it, man. That was it.
And that was the Aristocrats.
How is the makeup to wear?
I've gotten used to it. We've changed it up some. We used to use a gelatin mask that would fall apart easily because of any moisture, and now we've changed it up to a foam latex mask, and it's so much lighter on me and doesn't fall apart nearly as easily.
And what is in your life, when did people start figuring out that you were Art the Clown? And was it fucked up?
Yeah. I think people are slowly starting to figure that out now. I sometimes get recognized on the streets, which surprises me because, this does not look like art at all. So, but it's slowly starting to happen and sinking in. Like I had an Amazon delivery guy the other day recognize me, and I was like, "Wow, that's crazy."
He also wears a Terrifier shirt wherever he goes.
Merchandising.
Take it from a guy who's wearing a Silent Bob shirt right now. Good move.
Yep. All about the advertising.
Take us who else is up behind me?
All right, so then we have Catherine Corcoran, who plays Dawn in part 1. The infamous hacksaw scene, which she is clearly the MVP of Terrifier. I always say that. And she was, listen, that's not an easy scene to film by any stretch of the imagination.
Just being upside down is fucking not comfortable in the least.
Right. And
with clothes on.
Yeah, she'll tell you about that. But she was adamant about making that scene as cool as it could be. I remember having the first meeting with her. I met her where she lived. We had coffee just to talk about the role. And she said, listen, if we're going to do this, let's make it the coolest kill scene you've ever seen. If we're going to go, let's go all the way, and let's really have people talking about this scene. And I said, listen, that's where I'm coming from. I plan on doing that. I want this to be a showstopper. I want everybody leaving the movie talking about this scene. And everything you see, there's no trickery. I mean, she's really hanging upside down by her ankles, in that scene, in that dingy, disgusting room that was in the middle of the winter. It was freezing, no heat. It was a real abandoned building.
It was actually condemned.
It was
We got
condemned.
yelled at for being in there.
Listen to you two creeps, man.
Creeps.
You're so happy it was actually condemned. Fucking Addams family up here. How did it feel,
Catherine?
hanging upside down? At what point were you like, why did I enter acting?
Well, just to be clear, like typically you are supposed to have a rig to do something like that. And Jenna can speak to this more than I can because she is like, her stunt ability is run circles around mine, but we both, actively do stunts. And you are supposed to have a rig, and with the budget that they were working with, that just wasn't there. It wasn't possible. So the compromise that we came up with was that I was going to be on a platform, and we were going to be upside down for, I think it was like 42 seconds at a time, so that I wouldn't risk seizure. And we would yell action, and there would be a timer, and we would remove the little platform I was on. We could never take my legs out of the shackles. Those were real shackles because it would take too long. So they would take them out, and I would reverse crunch down. And then we'd go for as long as we could get it. And then the time would run out, and we'd yell cut, and they would all come in and push me back up. Phil was often the one who had to hoist me up onto the platform. And that's what we did all night in 20-degree weather. And at a certain point, I did start to get like a little bit like nauseous. I remember that. So the one close-up, I think, when you just see her head where I'm hanging off a table. And I did get really sick afterwards and did have to have a minor medical procedure, which we now talk about lovingly. But it was definitely a moment where I was like, and I think afterwards I was like, is this the job? I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure, but I mean,
it's exactly how Ben Affleck started. So yeah, that's the job.
Yeah, and so I was like, so but the funny thing is the scene everybody says made horror movie history and is what really makes the film memorable. And I'm really honored to have that. And when we were filming it, Damien, I remember going into the abandoned building or condemned building, whichever it was, and Damien saying, are you ready to make horror movie history? And I was like, shut up, Damien. Nobody is going to watch this film. I was actually filming with Ernie from SModcastle on my off days. We were making another horror movie simultaneously. And I was just like, no one's going to watch this. And here we are with you guys, 7 years later? And I just like, God, maybe I should listen to people or something. I don't know. I guess
based on what I saw, you should never listen to your agent. Fuck. How has?
They didn't want me to do it. They didn't want me to do it. They were not happy about it.
I believe it. That's a wise choice.
Yeah, but I wanted to. So here we are.
Let me ask you this: what is the what's the recognition factor? How often is somebody like, "Oh my God, you're the woman that got sawed in half"?
Oh, it happens a lot, actually. The other day, I was having a hard time finding parking at the LA Convention Center because I was speaking about women in genre for LA Comic-Con, and there was like a parking issue, and I pulled up, and I went to ask an attendant if there was another lot, and I pulled the window down, and she was like, "You, the clown movie, that's you." And I was like, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. That is me. And she was like, "Oh, this way." And I was like, sweet, paid off.
How is her first question not like, "How is your crotch"?
Oh, well, modern medicine is a wonderful thing. And luckily, I have healed in such a way that I feel is only made me better. But I would encourage you to ask Damien how his crotch is maybe next time. As it would be fun to see that happen to the opposite sex once in a while.
Yeah, how come in Terrifier 2 you didn't split it like a dude from the fucking dick on?
Cut the guy's dick off.
Why didn't you split him though, like you did her? You did cut the dude's dick off. That was so hot.
I have these questions too, Kevin. I
know,
answer.
penetrating questions to say the least. You know what? It's you're breathing rarefied air when you can claim an entire scene as your own. You know, actors are often at the mercy of the filmmaker and you know, become a prop in some degrees. This is a sequence where without the actor, you don't get to fucking do that magic sequence. And without not just like an actor, but an actor who's willing to hang upside down for longer than fucking humanly possible, you cruel pieces of shit. Give it up for her, ladies and gentlemen. That's huge.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Who else we got up there, Damien?
Jenna!
Yeah, and then we have Jenna Cannell, who plays Tara in Terrifier. Woo! So Jenna, I was trying to work with for years, a project before Terrifier that wound up falling apart. We never made it, and then I said, I'm always going to come back. I'm going to get you in something, and then there was Terrifier. And I don't even think you had to audition for Terrifier. It was just like, let's do this. I know what you're capable of. I know who you are. And
I auditioned for Ninth Circle.
The Ninth Circle, with my short film that I was going to turn into a feature. That never happened, but yeah. And so... What was your experience like on this fucking Killer Clown movie?
Stole your job, Kevin.
That's a very vague question.
Should I go more specific?
Yeah, please.
When you do something like Terrifier, and it like enters the public consciousness, what does that do for one's acting career? Or in this particular case, your acting career? I can't be more specific than that.
Sure, no, that's plenty specific. It's helpful in certain ways, and in other ways, it's, you know, I look very different in real life than I do in the film, and so I actually have the opposite experience as these two, where I was on a film last year. And the makeup artist was doing my makeup, and she was talking about Terrifier and was talking about how much she loved it. And I said something about you know, being involved in it. And she said, "Oh, are you friends with those guys?" No. I'm the bitch in the skeleton costume. And she like stepped back, and that actually happens to me more often. Is that usually people will be working with me, and then after the fact, we'll find out that I was a part of this, and then will lose their minds and suddenly change, which is pretty amusing.
There was that was the moment where I was like, Jesus, this guy will use anything to kill people. Since it was a splatter movie, I expected like a lot of splatter. I found it interesting as fuck that you used a gun as well. Yeah. What's that all about? No judgment whatsoever. I was like, oh my God, nobody ever used a gun to kill in a horror movie before. Like, this makes sense.
That's why I did it. I like little personal challenges and to see if things that would work that you don't typically see. And that's one of the most polarizing parts of the movie. Some people love it. They think it's brilliant, and they think it's
that he pulls the gun out?
That he pulls the gun out. Other people...
It's fucking hysterical.
It's hysterical. I mean... but it's very, I think it's very fitting for art because it's very cheap and it's very unfair and it's in character
because
for
I was
him.
about to beat his ass. That's why. We know. It's fine.
Right.
You can just
We all
say it.
know who would actually
We all
win.
know.
It was a fair fight. Let's get real
Taken
here.
down. What he had to.
Yeah. He was down and out, last resort. He's always got that in his back pocket if he's got to pull it out. Like, I originally used the gun in the short film Terrifier. He pulls it out, and because I wanted to see if it was... Because guns are terrifying, and they could be, like, really horrifying, and they're very relevant. And so I thought, you know, could I put that in the hands of a character like Freddy or Jason and actually have it work? And so I just wanted to try it out. And since he does use it kind of like a slasher, where he doesn't just use it once. He shoots her in the leg, and then he shoots her in the thigh, and then he shoots her in the stomach, and he just keeps going and prolonging it for as long as possible. And then when he finally does kill her, he doesn't stop there. Then he just unloads the gun in her face.
Fucking spoilers, but yes, go ahead.
He mutilates her like Art loves, you know, facial mutilation. That's his thing. So I like it. I like that he's cheap and he will resort to anything, and there are no rules. And the fact that he takes out the main character in the middle of the movie, sort of Janet Leigh style, it sets up his character as just being very unpredictable, and you never know what he's going to do, and nobody's safe, and that really helps going into Terrifier 2 because it keeps you on edge.
I sat in the back, and when you were shooting her, I was like, oh man, she's gonna have a hard time making it to the credits and shit. But I guess she'll be limping all the way. And then when you shot her like in the body, I was like, wow, fuck, this is gonna be even harder, man. Can't wait to see what challenges he invents for this character. And then he fucking shot her in the head. I was like, what the fuck? Not the girl in the skeleton dress. I got nobody now. It was very gently. You're right, man. Like suddenly it was like, shit, there she goes. Well, I can trust nothing in this movie. All right, where else we going? Right here.
So, Lauren Levera, Terrifier 2. So, I'm sorry. I have a little more to say about this woman. So, the character of Sienna is my favorite character that I've ever written, even more than Art the Clown, believe it or not, because she's very close to me personally. Because she's actually lightly based on my two older sisters, so I drew from a lot of personal relationships and experiences, and also just like a little bit of me being an artist and sort of like building the costumes and things like that. So it was so important to find the right actress, and when we started getting auditions like online, and I saw Lauren's reel, and I knew immediately that she was just so talented and so physical. She had this background being a martial artist that she would be fantastic. And then I brought her in to read with Elliot, who plays Jonathan, and their chemistry together was just so amazing, and I knew they were going to elevate my the material and my dialogue and everything. So it was so amazing. And then just seeing her, bring it to life and bring her own experiences to the role, it was just one of the most like beautiful experiences I ever had as a creator, and it was just so amazing. Yeah, you really killed it. I'm so proud of you. Seriously.
Take us into 2. Is it intimidating joining a world that already exists, or do you feel like, fuck, there's some safety here, man? I know people are going to see this fucking movie. It's got a 2 in the title.
Yeah, I actually didn't see the first before I auditioned for this. I saw it the day I found out that I was cast, which was a mistake. I should have watched it before so I'd known what I was getting myself into. But no, I loved it. I watched it like back to back, like 4 times the same day. And I was like, okay, like, what the fuck is this? So I was taken out to dinner with Dave and Damien, and and I just felt really protected from the get-go. Like I really felt like they would have my back. And I don't know if it was you or Dave that said it, but Dave said, I'm pretty sure it was Dave, he said that Sienna was going to be the Batman to Art's Joker. And I was like, what are you saying? What? That's a huge statement. Batman, dude? And then I look at Damien, and he was like, no, it's true. Like, definitely. And I was like, all right, cool. I didn't believe it. Like, I was like, sure, okay, what the fuck? But yeah, I don't know. I just felt really supported throughout. And I mean, even today, I'm surprised that people care. Like, I'm happy, I'm like grateful, but I don't know. It's just, like I said, everything has been so unprecedented. We would have never guessed. I mean, maybe they would have, but I would have never guessed that so many people would identify with Sienna and Terrifier 2. So I don't remember what the question was, but
You got there. You vamped enough to
Thank
get us
you.
there. What's life been like since the success of the movie? How often are you recognized at this point for Terrifier 2?
Okay, so I teach kickboxing still because I like martial arts. It's my only catharsis outside of acting. And this morning, this woman came up to me and she was like, "Can I fangirl, please?" And I'm like on my phone and I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "What do you mean, why? Terrifier 2." I was like, you know about that? I don't know. Like, it was just wild because I teach kickboxing and like, I don't know, they're all like middle-aged women. I didn't think that they would care. And she was like, "Oh my God, I love it, and Sienna's so fucking cool." And it was just wild. I was like, okay. And she was like, "Can we take a picture?" I was like, "Please don't post this. I don't want people to know where I work." But no, it's wild.
So wait, you teach kickboxing now?
I do, yeah.
Where at? In Los Angeles?
No, I'm from Philly.
So you do it in Philly? So somebody could be like taking a kickboxing class and be like, "Holy fuck, there's a chick from fucking Terrifier 2.
It happened this morning.
I'm gonna learn some shit."
You're gonna learn today. That's for damn sure.
This is an off-topic question, but how high can you kick?
Very high. I'm not gonna do it.
Come on, man.
I'm wearing Docs, dude. Like I'm wearing Docs.
Is that hard?
All right.
Do you need a hand or something to kick?
Come on, Laura. Dude, come on, you got this.
Is this high or higher?
We'll do it.
Don't hurt me. What the fuck? My God, man. You get them on the way up and on the way down with one of those.
I'm happy I wear jeans today.
Fuck, it takes a lot of physicality to make a movie like this, so you were prepared as fuck, huh?
I mean, I wasn't entirely prepared, but yeah.
She was super prepared.
Yeah.
Super prepared.
I saw
Not
it.
not only physically, but I say this all the time. Nobody has ever cared for a character that I wrote more than me. It's my own character. It's like my kid than she did. I mean, she would call me every week. I mean, days and days, like just saying, like,
Sorry.
what do you think? You know, how do you think Sienna feels about this? Like, what kind of music do you think Sienna will listen to? Like,
Made
just,
me a playlist.
yeah, and I gave her a
Aw.
playlist. Yeah, like I love
John
that shit.
Hughes used to do that
Oh, my-
for the
same.
Breakfast Club kids. He made them
Yeah.
plays.
Yeah.
This is what you would all listen to and shit.
For
I
sure.
always thought that was creepy. Oh no, that's a very, very cool thing, man. So, and most importantly, like the job of director, kids, it seems very glamorous. It seems like, oh shit, that's the job to have. It's a very simple job. Everyone else's job on a movie set is very easy to identify. Directors is a little more vague. Ultimately, the job comes down to a series of questions. That's it. You have a movie in your head that nobody else can fucking see. And so people come to you constantly with like black or white, and a good director is just like, oh, black. It's always been black since I was 5, and I went to see fucking Lost Boys and shit like that. You just have the answers for everybody at a moment's notice. You have to, because you're the only one with the movie in your head. So when an actor comes to you and asks you a series of fucking questions, like you're the only one that can provide all the context to let that actor then take off and soar. And what I'm hearing here is that it was crazy collaborative. You got like more than what you needed.
Absolutely. I thought I was being really annoying.
No,
because
directors love that shit. That's like, yeah, it's like you love
Hire
the
me.
character.
Yeah, no, for sure. He was like always available for me, like day and night, and I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for that. I mean, really, everybody on Terrifier 2 was fantastic, but like he was the captain of the ship, so yeah, I'm super grateful. He would always answer my questions, and he was excited that I was excited, and I was like, fuck yeah, let's make this fucking film, let's do it. So, yeah.
It's a real sausage party, this fucking movie, because they're, yet again, you're very female heavy, which normally when I was growing up, female heavy was just like, kill them all and shit, they were victims. Here, there's a lot of strength. Take us over here.
Samantha Scafidi, who plays Victoria. Yeah. Yep. I love Samantha. So, the final girl in part 1 who sort of becomes Art's victim and is now becoming some sort of evil, vile entity herself in part 2. And there's a lot more to explore with her character. So, yeah.
Yes, that's me. Yes. I'm disfigured in the majority of my moments, but this is me now with a face. Hello.
What was it like doing the I was gonna say, what was it like doing the creepy scene? They're all fucking creepy. How do you approach a film like this, where your character is gonna go in very interesting directions, to say the least?
I didn't know. I feel like with the first film, I knew the script because obviously I had read it, prepared for it, but I didn't know really until the second that it would kind of evolve in this really, for me, it's like one of the most exciting evolutions of a character, because it's amazing to be a final girl. It's amazing to kind of be a hero in a film to a degree, but then for me, it's really juicy where I'm playing that, and then all of a sudden she's descending into madness, and where do I go with that? Where do we go with that? And questions I ask for Damien, it's like, is there any part of Vicky that is still in there? And how do we explore that together? It's just a gift. It really is. So I'm just really, I don't know if I answered that question, but.
You did. You are part of a long storied tradition in horror movies, Final Girl. What is that like out in the real world? Like, there's a real following for final girls all over the fuck. Like, it's a concept. It's a thing that obviously people know so much so that there's a term.
It's, I mean, I'm excited. I'm grateful for it. It's an honor. And just like I said, when I met Damien, and just being a part of anything that he makes is an honor and a privilege. And I'm just excited to be along for the ride. And the fact that ride has gotten extended has been just one of the highlights of my career. So it's pretty cool.
How can I give it up for him, man? Excellent job.
And then we have Sarah Voigt, who plays Sienna's mother, Barbara, in Terrifier 2. Now, so
This is acting. How the fuck are you playing her mother, man? What are you, like 2 years fucking older than her? That's the special effect in this fucking movie.
Yeah.
There, I'm done being charming.
So Sarah, what was it like kind of playing my mother in this movie?
Is that who she's playing?
A little bit is based kind of, yeah, it's a little
little
autobiographical, not gonna lie. That whole family
sweet.
dynamic in Terrifier 2.
Which, by the way, was very good. Like, I love the family scenes in the beginning. I was like, oh shit. Like, it already took a jump from the previous movie, and as much as like, look at the performance level here,
yeah, I
and
agree.
look at the shots and shit. Anyway, back to this.
Yeah. So,
I loved playing your mother. She's an angry, angry, angry bitch. And I adore her because my mother is very similar. No, it was great. And
did you know about Terrifier going? I don't remember. Like, did you
No.
know about it? Have you ever been in a horror movie before? When you
No. I remember I booked it, and then I watched one, and my husband turned around and said, "Do you really want to do this?"
Did you see what they did to that woman?
And I said, "No, but I need the credit on my IMDb." And so that's how I suffered through Terrifier 2, which has become the greatest achievement of my life.
And yes. And how do you feel about mashed potatoes now?
You motherfuckers and your DMs with your mashed potatoes, which I am very grateful for, but my own mother trolls me with potatoes all day, every day. She's like, "You want some potatoes?" I'm like,
Potatoes!
I don't want potato. Who's that?
Potato.
I know, you didn't even get to shove it in my face proper. It was like my dead face. But no, I do love mashed potatoes. So yes, thank you. And I love portraying your mother.
You
Half
did a great
my
job.
mom too.
You
So
did a
thank
great job.
you.
My mother hated you in the movie, by the way. Which means I did a great job putting that mirror right up to her face. She's like, I don't like her. I would have believed.
What a kind thing to do to the woman who's like, I'll help you finance your first film.
You're like, I would have believed that little boy. You're like, I don't like her. I don't like her. Yeah.
Speaking of little boy,
There he is. Yep, Elliot Fulham, who plays Jonathan.
Hello.
Now, very heavily based on me, is just like interested in obviously murder and dark shit, and but a good person, but a good kid at heart, and very, very difficult role to cast. Finding a little kid who has the acting chops and who could also sustain all that physical shit that he has to go through and being whipped by Art the Clown. I mean, you really take a beating in this fucking movie. Like, and you were incredible, dude. You really were.
Thank you, man.
I'm very proud of you and what you did. and
Thank
your
you so much.
performance. Yeah, man.
what was it like growing up on this movie?
Well, I kind of also grew up with the first movie because I was already a fan of the first Terrifier before I even auditioned. So when I saw the audition, I was like, Terrifier 2, no way.
How fucking refreshing. All these other motherfuckers are like, I never heard of it, but I needed the work. And you're like, I was a fucking fan. I came to it willingly.
I've been a horror fan since I can remember. House of a Thousand Corpses is one of the first horror movies I've ever watched at a very, very young age.
It makes me feel so fucking old, man. You're like, first horror movie I watched was like when you were 40.
Yeah, so I've always been a horror nerd, and that I can also relate to Jonathan because he's into all the dark stuff. I'm not into real killers, but I do love me some good horror slashers.
What's when most of these other cats are grown-ups in the grown-up world, you're still dealing in a world that actually goes to see these movies. So are you something of a celebrity amongst the youth set? Do they recognize you instantly?
Sometimes I've gone out to NYC and there'd be people that stop me. Oh, you're that kid in Terrifier too? I'm like, yes. And then it just go.
And they're like, let's have sex.
I haven't gotten that yet. No,
not yet. Not yet. Terrifier 3, you watch. What is it now? It's not like a Marvel movie, but I imagine while shit's going on, you're like fucking no spoilers. Fucking keep shit quiet. Don't tell people what we're doing and stuff. Don't spoil gags. Yeah. Is it tough to work on shit this cool and not tell people, like, oh, especially in the age of social media, like, look at this, they hacked a lady in fucking half, it's nuts.
It was, I mean, for Terrifier 2, yes, it was pretty hard because, you know, I am a horror nerd, so I want to talk about horror movies. So I had to keep it to myself until it eventually came out, and then I was able to talk about it. So I don't know anything for Terrifier 3, that's in Damien's mind.
I didn't ask, but good fucking cover. He's like, I smell where this is going. Don't ask me shit. I want to come back. Steve, did we have others that we didn't get up here?
Yeah. Kaylee. Yeah. Kaylee Hyman.
Kaylee, you here? Come on up.
I'm getting up. I'm leaving.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Producer, a seat there,
everybody.
producer. Come on up, kid.
Kaylee Hyman, who plays Brooke in Terrifier 2, Sienna's friend.
He left the seat warm. Thanks, Phil.
You don't want to know why.
What was your experience like? I gotta say, just like Kaylee's audition, there was never a runner-up for Sienna or for Brooke. As soon as we saw their performances, we said these are the actresses for the part. Like, Kaylee just had like the most raw talent that I saw, seriously, from all the auditions, and I literally gave her direction one time throughout the course of the movie. So like she just owned Brooke and like just told me who Brooke was. I just sat back at the monitor, I just fucking watched in awe every take. Every take she just brought something different to it. She would improvise and she was just so alive every take. And literally there was this one performance when she's talking about Sienna's father, and she didn't do it bad in any way. It was just I just wanted her to just shift the tone a little bit, and she just did it instantly. And that was the only time I really ever gave you any direction other than blocking. So you were just so stunning. You did such an amazing job. So yeah.
Thank you.
What was did you know about Terrifier? I mean, have you ever acted in a horror movie before? What did you think you were getting into?
I've never done a horror movie. I love horror movies. My brother and I watch them. We have like a Tuesday night horror movie fest at my house that we still do. But no, I've similarly, I did not see Terrifier 1 until you called me. You told me about it. I watched it and I was like, all right, I'll do it. It was great though. I'm so in awe of the practicals and the special effects that you did. I mean, I would scare myself at the gash on my leg was so realistic. I would just like send pictures. I'd be like, Mom, help. And she'd be like, what? How do I get there? Oh man, it was such an awesome experience, and also like very cold. I feel like we've talked about this all the time. It's very cold there. Just being on an indie film and working on something and working long hours and really building up that stamina in this group setting with all of these amazing people that have so much heart and just absolutely love what they're doing. I mean, it was just the best experience, and I don't think there's anything that could have projected me in a way to help me experience whatever is going to come now. I feel like I am ready for any set that I'm going to be on. Like, nothing is going to challenge me in that way, in such like a physical and emotional way that I really went through with this. And now I also have like friends for life, and it was just I'm just so grateful for it.
Was this also the first time you ever had condoms glued to your face and a guy on the other end blowing into
No,
tubes?
funny story. No, yes, of course it is.
Oh, I've had condoms all over
Mom,
my face.
I don't know what a condom is. Yes, it is. It is. If anybody doesn't know, yes, my face had that was what was bubbling. They were condoms, and there's one take that actually did not make it in the movie where one pops. Do you? I don't know what happened to that, but right underneath where you see in the film is Damien with a straw going. And I think he like laughed and blew a little too hard and it went pop. And I was like screaming and then like, wait.
Because you're like, my face is gonna get pregnant.
Can we keep this in? Right.
What I keep hearing over and over from the actors is a lot of love, man. You have a family atmosphere for a movie that's so fucking horrible and gruesome. Everybody, all the performers love you and seem to have your back, man, and coalesce behind you. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we know for a fact these motherfuckers aren't here for the money, for Christ's sakes. One of them's here for the credit, but it sounds like they're all here for the love. How's that make you feel, man?
The best, man, and that's the atmosphere that I like to keep on set. I'm so grateful, and we're just having fun. I like to keep that kind of childlike atmosphere, and if like anybody brings any negative, like I'll never snap on anybody. Like it'll take so much for me to ever get angry on set, like ever. It's just, you know, I'm having such a good time. I like to keep a really loving environment, and we're all there having fun. It should be fun. We're not fucking curing cancer or performing brain surgery or anything like that. We're making movies. We're getting to play for a living. So that's why when anybody brings any negativity to my set, it's just like chances are I'll fucking get rid of them like the next day, unless there's some people I know and really trust or they have a reason to be annoyed, which happens a lot. I mean, we put people through really stressful situations sometimes where people crack. We all crack. There's all moments throughout the movie where people break. You know, you're on fucking 18-hour days sometimes. It's freezing cold. You're covered in blood. You know, I get it. But at the end of the day, like, I'm always there. I'm always there to be your support. And again, I mean, I want it to be, even though it's uncomfortable, I want it to be an enjoyable experience. So I really try and keep that atmosphere. Yeah.
Absolutely smart. Steve, is there anybody else, or is that it? You want to shout them out, or?
Mike Levy here, assistant director, and God knows how many.
God damn it! It's about time, Damien.
Oh God.
I've been sitting on that floor waiting all damn night. I was trying to zoom in. I was trying to get up there with everybody else did. It's just technical difficulties. We got to work about it. All right.
Mike, what's your favorite memory from the set of Terrifier 1 or 2?
One, I was Will the Exterminator. Okay, I was the guy who got decapitated the first one. Great scene. I'm just happy to be here, man. It's incredible.
It's an honor to be here with you, brother.
It's fucking. It's so weird to say that. I was like, you were the exterminator, man. Fucking.
I was.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I get text messages and things. They think that, hey, you know, that guy Dante from Clerks is the guy who got exterminated from the filming, decapitated because I had the goatee.
No, he got exterminated
so I get that,
in another movie altogether. The people out there who are watching, a lot of cats would like to do what you do, and horror is a conceivable entry in for a lot of nascent filmmakers. There are a million ways out of this room, and horror is a path that a lot of first-timers take. So I would imagine there are a lot of first-timers out there watching, and people who want to do what you've done on a small level, on a big level. What advice can you give those cats? Practical advice from somebody who has done a couple of Terrifiers and made up a word in the process. That word doesn't exist, ladies and gentlemen. That was made up for the movie. Tell them what they could do to be you or be themselves.
Yeah. I mean, listen, all I could say is what I did that worked for me. One thing is, you know in your heart what you want to be. And if you truly want to be that, you'll never stop no matter what, no matter where you end up. You could end up on the street starving and poor, but you're going to keep doing it because you don't know how to do anything else, and nothing else is going to bring you joy. So if you really believe that that's what you want to do, you won't even question it. You'll just keep doing it. You won't have a choice but to do it. The other thing I say, if you really you should choose something in the exploitation arena. It does help because I knew that going in, even as a kid when I was making like my first short film. I said I have to show shit that's gonna get people talking. Like there's so much competition out there. There's so many movies. Everybody can make a movie now with their phones and whatnot. Why is somebody gonna watch your movie? This is a good point, because going into Terrifier, I said, why is somebody gonna watch Terrifier when they can watch a $20 million Hollywood horror movie? What am I bringing to the table that's gonna get them talking about my movie? And I said, we'll have kill scenes that you've never seen before, and where other movies would shy away, I'm going to show everything. So we're going to have this great, kill scene, this hacksaw scene, where if they had that in an R-rated movie, they might do it, but you won't actually see the saw going through her body and from certain angles and things like that. And even Dave will tell you, he said when he read it, he thought I just wrote the description for the reader. And he's like, we're not going to actually show that, are we? I said, no, I'm going to show everything that I wrote in the script. And he's like, oh my God. I'm like, okay. And we did, and that was the mindset going in, and sure enough, people did talk about that scene, and that's one of the reasons why Terrifier was so popular. People start telling their friends, you gotta check out this scene, it's crazy. And then going into part 2, I said, we have to do something like that again. We're still a super low budget movie, $250,000 is like the budget of the fucking craft services on a Marvel movie, and that's our whole budget. I said, why are people gonna come watch this movie? And now we have these people wanting us to rival the hacksaw scene. We're gonna show people something really insane. Let's have this kill scene that takes place for like 3 minutes in this brightly lit room, like where you see like the transformation scene in American Werewolf in London in this harsh light, but you see everything. And that's just not something you typically see in slasher movies. It's usually very quick, and it happens in the dark. It happens in shadows, but we'll show everything. And sure enough, people are fucking puking and leaving the theater. And it goes viral, and it makes millions of dollars. So I recommend that you really are conscious of just giving people something that's going to stand out and get them talking. It doesn't have to be something horrific, but it has to be, you don't want to just have people talking around a table or something philosophical until you've already made a name for yourself, and then you already have their attention, and then you can do your movie with people talking around a table. But you have to grab the audience's attention, so just be conscious of that.
Excellent piece of advice. We just watched a movie with a 2 in the title. And if you get to a 2 and it's successful, it screams trilogy. How soon can one expect you to start working on Terrifier 3?
Well, I've already started writing the script, but like I said, there's a lot of people have come to the table now, and they're interested in working with me on things, and I do have other horror ideas and ideas for films, so it could potentially be one movie in between Terrifier 3, or if none of those pan out quickly, I'm going to just jump right into Terrifier 3 and get it going.
I'll tell you, yes, give it up. I'll tell you, good art creates good artists, or wannabe artists, and even a wannabe artist is a good artist. Every artist is a good artist. I sat in the back tonight, and as I was watching Terrifier 2, I was like, oh shit, I should make my next movie fucking super cheap, because then I could control everything. I was like, what a good idea. And then I was like, wait, I made Clerks. I had this good idea years ago, and I forgot along the way, because along the way, like, life happens, business happens, and suddenly all of a sudden things cost more than they did when you started the job. But I was inspired tonight. I sat in the back, and afterwards I was talking to Josh Roush, and he had talked about this movie that I was talking about making, and we were going to have to go shoot it elsewhere or something. And he was like, you should shoot it here. And I was like, oh, we can't. It's too much money. After watching you guys tonight, I was like, fuck, we are shooting it here. We're going to do inexpensively, man. We're going to follow your lead. So thank you, my friend.
Oh, my God. Wow.
From an elder statesman to a fucking younger one.
No
Thanks
better
for showing the way.
ever.
Kids, tonight you got to breathe some rare air, man. You got to hang out with some people that made some cool-ass movies that you all just sat and watched. You have a good time tonight, people of SModcastle? I want to thank the good folks from Terrifier and not Terrifier 1, just Terrifier, and Terrifier 2, not only for double featuring it tonight, which is fulfilled a long-time dream of mine for this place and stuff, but also for sticking around and Q&Aing into the fucking wee hours of the morning. It's 1:30, kids. 1:30 on the East Coast, which means that a bunch of people are still watching the stream because they're A, fans, and B, hungry for information. Tonight, you both entertained them and provided them with a lot of information for those watching on the stream. And for those of us here in the room, you gave us a lot to think about. Next time I'm hanging upside down, I'm going to think about that fucking hacksaw scene. Kids.
Protect your crotch. Protect your crotch, Kevin.
I hear that all the time. Kids, when you make nightmares for a living, you meet the people that make nightmares for a living, and they turn out to be the sweetest, dreamiest fucking people of all time. Give it up for the cast and crew of Terrifier and Terrifier 2! That's all we got for you from SModcastle Cinemas. Good night, kids. Come see us in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. Good night.
Thank you.